I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Ratcliffe.
What a pleasure to talk to these two. It's Fox and Rob Richardson, and they have a book. It is out. It is called Time. First of all, guys, welcome.
Thank you so much, Dan.
Thank you all for having us.
My gracious, I don't even know where to begin as I read. The publisher sent me a press kit, and I read through it, and I'm like, what a story. This story is a real life story, which we'll get into. It's a documentary that was out in 2020. It was nominated in 2021 for an Academy Award. The book now is out. The long and short of it, 21 years in Angola, Rob spent, and Fox at home with six boys. My gracious, I have 3 boys. You're a saint now. Unbelievable. Rob was supposed to stay in Angola for 61 years, but got out in 21. It is a miracle on every angle. Let's talk about it. Fox, where do we begin?
Oh, probably with Rob giving a little backstory about us would be the best place. Faith?
Yeah. Well, I guess with that being said, for those that are listening in for the very first time, Fox and I collectively are known as Fox and Rob. We're a formerly incarcerated couple who've spent more than 21 years behind bars before receiving clemency in 2018. Prior to going to prison, which was September of 1997, the history of Fox and Rob goes all the way back to 1987, where we met as high school sweethearts through a mutual friend of ours. After about 10 years of on again, off again relationships with one another, I finally hit her over the head with a club, drug her back in the cave and said, "Hey, woman, you're going to marry me and you're going to do it today." She didn't do it that day, but the next week we ended up eloping to a small chapel in Kissimmee, St. Cloud, Florida, where we exchanged nuptials with each other. We entertained ourselves later on that night at what was then called Pleasure Island, which was a destination at the Disney property. Mm-hmm. And we consummated our marriage that night by bungee jumping and declaring all over the city of Orlando that we were the couple to mess with.
Thrill seekers, you guys.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. So
that's got to be book 2.
I know, right?
Thrill seekers.
That's right. But we got back home and with plans on, starting our lives anew. We purchased what would become our family's first home and
launched our first business
not too long thereafter. And just when we thought that we had arrived, boy, whatever could happen, happened.
Wow.
What they call it, Murphy's Law.
Yeah.
The beautiful house that we thought we bought, that we thought we had, ended up having, it was on a bad foundation. The foundation was cracked. Mm-hmm. They did additions to the house, and the additions were done so terribly that the roof was screwed up and
had a bad leak in the first storm that hit the house.
Boy, leak is putting it lightly. Yes, we had a flood. It rained in that joker like it was Katrina.
Yes.
Wow.
And so from that, we realized as novice in business that we had broken the first 3 rules of business: location, location, location. Mm. We had opened a hip hop clothing store in an industrial part of the city. And then if that wasn't enough, we turned around and the investor that we had for our expansion pulled out on us. And a couple of weeks later, our son, our youngest son, started having seizures that went undiagnosed. So it was like within the first 6 months of marriage, we started out at an all-time high. We were the happiest we'd ever been in our lives. And 6 months later, faced with financial crisis, we tried to take money to regain financial solvency and achieve what we thought was the American dream. Mm-hmm. And ended up facing 297 years in prison. Mm-hmm. And so it makes me think about one of the questions that Rob posed to me when we first found ourselves steeped in so much trouble, so much affliction. And he says, so Fox, we made a vow for better or for worse. Did you think the better was going to come first? And I paused and I was like, well, yes, at least 10 years of better, at least a 7-year itch or something, not 7 months,
Wow. So you guys jumped right into it. And so fast forward a little bit, you end up in prison. Let's talk about being in prison can be a learning experience. What did you guys learn while you were in there?
For me, it was that nothing was more important than my family. And I don't think that prison taught me that as much as I was so happy that Rob and I had finally bought our family under the, under the leadership of God, that we had put our union under the umbrella of God. And it was the happiest moment of my life. And it was the reason why I even started filming in the first place. For those who have seen Time, the documentary, it opens up with me saying, well, there we are, the Rich family. What do you think about that? And so as soon as my husband went in that bank, and I had to go back and explain to our oldest son that his father was not coming home, what I clearly understood was that we thought that money could fix it and make everything better for our family, when our family already had everything we needed to make it. We had each other, and we had the love. And those are the things that are most important in this life. And as we have spent time in Hollywood with people who have all the wealth and all the fame, it still takes us back to that humble lesson of saying that they have all of the wealth and fame, and they still don't have the joy of the Lord in their hearts that only comes from the love of God. And so that was what I learned immediately. And that was before I even went to prison, was that my family was everything, and everything is family.
Well said.
We're talking with Fox and Rob. The book is out. It's called Time. You'll want to pick that up. And if you can, check out the documentary as well. Where can they see the documentary now? Is it on a streaming service somewhere? Or how can they see it?
Yes, it's on Amazon Prime. So they can stream it there. It is on Amazon Prime.
Okay, well, let's talk a little bit. We want you to see the documentary. We want you to read the book. All right, so it's a miracle that you're out. You should have spent, according to the press release, more time, but you're out. Tell us about the miracle, where you are now and where you're going.
Oh my God, the miracle, boy.
21 years of miracles.
I think that it's first important to note that God performs his greatest miracles in many of the darkest, most lowest points that we find ourselves in life. And being confined to for 21 years and 4 days in what is known as America's bloodiest prison, Angola State Penitentiary, where you're talking about where men are hopeless and live daily in despair. And, man, it's a terrible place. And when you think about the mass majority of the men that are there have been sentenced to Angola with, life without parole. They've been sentenced to life sentences with no opportunities at parole, suspension of sentences, or any of the sorts. And the men, the percentage of those men, I think maybe 15 to 20% of the men, much like myself, did not actually have life sentences, but had what would amount to practical life sentences, because they had been given so many years of time to serve. And and when you think about the Truth in Sentencing that was created in the early 1990s under the Clinton administration, it made it to where anybody that had been convicted for a crime that would be identified as a crime of violence, then you would have to do 85% of whatever time you were issued. So when you think about me being issued a 61-year sentence, I would have had to do more than 51 years before becoming eligible for parole consideration. But, as they say, the devil is a lie. God is the truth. So with that being said, we had an angel that entered our lives. Crazy enough, a white male Republican from Brentwood, California, who happened to find himself in the city of New Orleans, where he met, of all people, our son, one of our twins, our 17-year-old son, Freedom.
Wow.
They were holding an event at Loyola University, at one of the colleges here, to which Freedom had been invited to come out and be a part of. And the speaker that was there noticed Freedom from a question that he asked. And from that, he was so moved by the question that he had been asked and the presentation that Freedom had made in that moment. And as Freedom was getting ready to attempt it, to exit the building, he stopped. The speaker stopped in the middle of his speech and said, "Hey, kid," he says, "hold up, where are you going?" He said, "Don't go nowhere. I'm about to change your life."
Wow.
To which my son conceded and came back in to sit through, not knowing, what the guy actually meant by the statement or anything of the sort. But fast forward, after an audience with my wife and Freedom and his other brothers, the guy was so moved because he said that, man, one, I hadn't met anybody as impressive as your son Freedom in the last 25 years of my life.
Wow.
And equally, I am equally as impressed by his 5 other brothers who, I'm just thinking that when I meet people that have these circumstances, as a reality for themselves, that they're usually broken in spirit and definitely do not reflect the joy, elation, and love that that this unit seems to be having right here. And he says to Freedom, he says, "What can I do? What can I do to help make your life better?" Freedom gave him a number of things. I think it may have been 3 things, but one thing in particular, he said that his father was not at home, and he wanted to have me home, not for himself, but for his younger brother, because he felt like that his younger brother deserved to have his father in the household with him. And with that being said, the gentleman, he made no promises other than the fact that he would speak to those in power and would report back to us. He presented that our family to the governor of our state, and to which the governor told him that if you get past the pardon board, I'll sign the clemency.
Wow. So
it was kind of one of those moments that you see in the Bible. That for those that are Bible readers, you don't have to read too far into the book. Just read in the first opening when they talk about Joseph and how it is that Joseph, through just staying diligent, staying faithful, and all of that, right, even though Joseph had been dealt a bad hand, he was ultimately relieved of the situation of prison after about 10 to 12 years of doing time. And then once he got out, he was placed only second in power to that of the king. Now, Fox and I did not come out of the prison experience and be placed second in power to the governor of our state. But boy, when you think about the fact that we came from the pits of hell and ended up on the red carpet
at the 93rd most exclusive Oscars ever.
Okay.
Yeah. It was pretty close.
Right.
That's awesome.
Wow. Fox and Rob, it's a book out. It's out now. It's called Time, and you can also see it on Amazon, on Prime, the documentary. And what a story it is. Guys, you minister to so many people. It sounds to me like you're going to be ministering to so many more people with this story. Unbelievable. We'd love to get you back and talk to you more about it, maybe in a few months, to check on the book and how you guys are doing. And if you're watching Facebook Live or YouTube Live, look at that picture on the wall there. Isn't that a beautiful picture? I love that picture. That is so awesome. Where can they go? Dan, you have the website there. foxandrob.com is a great place to go to. Again, the book is called Time, and the documentary is called Time. Let's take a break. We'll be right back. I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Ratcliffe.
This is Faith